Welcome to the I Hate Critics Movie Review Podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Howdy, rowdies.
And there's somebody else here. What the hell's going on? Who's this guy?
It's a home invasion.
We've already got one bald guy with facial hair. What are you doing here? We've got a quota already.
I'm just going to stay quiet until...
Hi, Bob.
Hey, thanks for bringing me
Hi,
back.
Bob.
Hope everybody remembers me.
Our executive producer,
Kinda.
Bob Zarrell, is here.
Yes, thanks for having me back.
In a vault. So what have you been doing? You've been somewhere, just hiding amongst your gold.
Yeah, exactly. I've been in a legal vault with like 3 different lawsuits, and I'm not even exaggerating.
That sounds fun.
This is what happens when you end up in the MAGA cult. I mean, you
Yes. Oh man, even after the movie I did see, I had a nightmare about one of the lawsuits that somehow tied into the movie Strangers, and it was just a shit show. Maybe I'll talk about it on here. I don't know. It's a long story, but we'll see what the show
We'll see how that goes. Jeff, where can people get your art?
JeffLassiter.com. Please go buy some art so that I can pay for the granted very cheap hutch that I just committed to buy on Marketplace, and pay for stickers for Iowa City Pride.
Nice. Did you meet Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
Briefly, I didn't get a chance to leave my table much last weekend, just because nobody I knew could really sit at it. So I was like, I did have to pop in the room he was in fairly quickly, but he seemed to be having a good time. Walked by his table.
Yeah, Jeff was at an event with Brutus the Barber Beefcake last weekend, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there, Jeff. I had planned on going, but I was quite ill again.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It happens. It happens. Don't try crash diets that you hear about on TikTok. That's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say.
Well, let's just put it this way. With my upper GI body lately, I didn't eat anything the night before, just in case. That's how it is when you're old.
Yes, indeed. You'll be there someday, Bob. It will happen to you too. And of course, you'll have to go through all that without your imaginary friend, your if, because you can't see them anymore because you're an adult. Let's start with that. Let's talk about If. John Krasinski making a movie about imaginary friends. It stars a young girl who can see the imaginary friends around everywhere that belong to people who can no longer see them. Ryan Reynolds is also somebody who can see them all, and she interacts with him, and he invites her to be part of this thing that he does where he takes care of former imaginary friends who lose the ability to be seen by their former kids. It's like a nursing home, but then she takes over and turns it into a amusement park. She has a big dance scene to that song that the kids all love, Bob. Better Be Good to Me by Tina Turner. I know your daughter constantly bumping that song.
Constantly. Big fan. When did this movie take place?
1996.
I other than the fact that at one point they walked by, I guess it would be the Tonight Show, and it said Jimmy Fallon. Otherwise, I couldn't tell when this movie was supposed to take place. I was hoping it was like in the 80s, so the Tina Turner thing made sense. They do show her as a little kid being a big Tina Turner fan, but it is still odd.
Yeah, because like even if you were, she's like 12 years old in the movie. The younger part of her, that younger part was like 8 years old. So we're talking
4 years,
2014, like whatever, 2016, something like that. I don't know what the math. But yeah, like not a time when any kid was listening. Nothing against Tina Turner, legend, great song. No one's listened to it since adult contemporary radio in the 90s. Just that's the way it is. That's just the truth. Tina Turner hadn't listened to it since then. But there's like this big elaborate dance scene to that song. And then for some reason, at that point, after the movie has started introducing this girl having lost her mother and kind of rushing to be a grown-up and desiring to be a grown-up and kind of dour and down on her dad, John Krasinski, for, trying to be funny all the time and make her be a kid. And then suddenly during that sequence, it becomes about Ryan Reynolds' character not wanting to be fun. It makes no sense. Like, when did it become about him? This was her story, and then suddenly she's having a great time being a kid, and the story is about him needing to learn a lesson.
And he's just an imaginary friend himself. He's not even a real person.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not real either. Turns out he was her if after she begins reuniting imaginary friends with their former kids. Um, you know, in the marketing of this, Steve Carell's character Blue is supposed to be like a big part of this. You could take him out of this entire movie and it doesn't change anything.
Right.
Really?
Like there's a set piece with him, and like his former kid is like Bobby Moynihan, who's not even a character in the movie. He's just that's Bobby Moynihan from SNL. And yeah, his plays no role in the plot whatsoever, even though the marketing says like Blue is the big character. And the only reason they said that is because they want to sell plushies of him. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of the imaginary friends, they're more, and I didn't look at the voice actors, but it just seemed like an excuse to get, it sounded like famous people to pop up and do a line and then disappear. There might have been, go ahead.
We got like Aquafina, George Clooney, Jon Stewart. If you told me that this was John Krasinski's money laundering scheme to like pay off all of his friends, I couldn't argue with you, because that's essentially what he did, is cast every one of his friends. Matt Damon's in there, and have them play these voice characters and pay them, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's sloppy. It's also not for us. It's for someone like my wife, that type of moviegoer who's not doesn't really like to dig into movies, just like surface level stuff, and doesn't start pulling the strings on a movie and letting it fall apart, which was what would happen here. I get where they were going with it, and it's a cute idea, whatever, but when you start pulling the strings, it starts to fall apart. And it's not a movie you're supposed to pull the strings on.
Yeah, if you approach this movie with any critical eye, it immediately goes to pieces. This is just a complete mess. It's in terms of being an actual movie. It's really just it's a nothing. It's not even a movie. It did inspire me to write about my own childhood imaginary friend. I had an imaginary friend named John, who was just a really much cooler version than me that lived in my head. That was my imaginary friend. How about you?
I had a family. It was Dorvin, Sharina, and the boys. They lived down the street, to the point when I would tell stories about them, it would freak my parents out, because they thought maybe there really was somebody I was going to see. Although I've never heard the name Dorvin and Sharina ever again.
I went to school with a girl named Sharina.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Did you have an imaginary friend?
I didn't, but it's kind of funny. We one of our aunts, who has since passed away, she had one that we would always make fun of her for, named Cocky. And Cocky lived in a knot in the tree in front of our grandparents' house, and Cocky would tell her secrets. Like, she was actually, her real parents were Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. So, yeah, R.I.P. Eileen.
The problem was is that she had that imaginary friend in her 40s, and that's a little weird time to have.
Yeah, that's when I developed.
Only came
mine.
Up when she was drunk too. It's really like.
That's when I developed mine, was in my 40s.
I had a friend who had an imaginary friend in college. It was really weird.
Whoa, that is some trauma dumping right there.
It was like a stuffed animal. He would pick up and talk to it.
Oh, good God.
I mean, it was, I don't know. He ended up, he was part of our friend group. So I'm not, we weren't really making fun of him ever. And he kind of got rid of it, but it was an awkward couple years at first.
He finally got a therapist?
I think so.
Would assume so.
Well, I mean, he got his degree and is fairly successful, but it was kind of shocking. He's got a hilarious TikTok with like 7 followers.
Hey,
Is one of them his imaginary friend?
Maybe.
it's his subscriber list includes Dorvin and Sharina, so surprisingly enough.
Probably.
And cocky.
All right, we had more fun talking about If than the actual movie did. So
Yeah, we'd probably skip it in a stronger week.
oh, no doubt, no doubt. Let's move on to a movie that only I saw called Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse biopic, directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, and starring I can't even remember the lady's name. Doesn't matter. Not very good movie. This is really a weird approach. Sam Taylor Johnson doesn't really give us any reason why she wanted to make this movie. And I say that having seen the movie, I don't know what it was that drove her to want to tell this story, because she has absolutely no insights about Amy Winehouse's talent. She doesn't really have any insight into her artistic process, and really no insight into her death, other than this really like kind of gross scene where a character played by Jack O'Connell, Blake, her Blake was the guy she fell in love with, who was like this toxic relationship that she was in, that was kind of a big part of her alcoholism and her drug abuse. He literally introduced her to drugs. There's a scene where after they've broken up for the first time, he's talking to his drug dealer. She's become an even bigger star since then. And the drug dealer says to him, hey, you should get back together with her and use all the money and fame that she has to get more drugs. And he goes, yeah, I should do that. And then he does. And it's like, it's like show, don't tell. Like, the scene is so blunt and just so such a bait to people about blaming this guy for everything that happened to Amy Winehouse. And it's so simplistic, it's insulting. I don't know this guy, Blake. I don't know anything about him. I know that by the lore that he had a drug problem. Beyond that, was he responsible for Amy Winehouse getting hooked on drugs and dying of alcohol poisoning? There's really no evidence to show that whatsoever. It's really ridiculous. And this is a terrible, terrible movie that won't call it exploitative, because again, it doesn't really do anything other than that scene. I would say other than that, it doesn't really do anything. You can get the same experience of Back to Black just by listening to Amy Winehouse records. It's the same experience, but it's better because you're at home next to a record player listening to a great song. Just skip this movie. It's terrible.
Do you know why this movie exists?
No.
Because her father blamed all of her problems on Blake and basically had this movie made.
Well, that makes sense based on what I saw. I mean, it makes he comes off like the white knight rushing in to save her. And,
he was very, very even while she was alive, he blamed Blake for literally everything, which, I mean, I understand that's his daughter, but he completely takes away her agency by doing that. And then when, he wanted to produce this movie, telling her story, it's really just about making him the hero of it. And trying to come in and save her, and it's all Blake who's the problem. And yeah, I'm not sad I skipped this.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. Bob, were you a fan of Amy Winehouse?
Casually. I mean, I didn't have any of the records, but the songs that I heard, I mean, were clearly good songs. I think overall, you've kind of turned me off of biopics in general. You showed me what to look for in it. Similar to, when you go to a movie like If, it's hard to watch with a critical eye. Same thing with biopics. And simplicity is something they do. They try to combine, again, I'm not talking about this one in particular, but they'll try to combine like 4 characters into one and just cover certain things with just a line of dialogue or whatever. And it's kind of frustrating when you really care about the artist or the person that the biopic's about. And I feel like more are like that than not.
Yeah, this one especially is just incredibly simplistic, and just that one scene is just so ridiculously bad. You can almost feel like maybe her dad was like, "That's how this plays out. That's the scene." He decides to go back to her only because she's got money and he can get drugs. Make that scene. Sam Taylor Johnson's like, okay, hey, I made a 50 Shades movie. I can do this.
And he did.
Terrible. All right, let's talk about arguably the best movie of 2024. I'm talking about I Saw the TV Glow, Jane Schoenbrun's incredible horror film that is also an allegory for trans people. It tells the story of Owen, a young boy who meets a girl in high school, is a couple years older than him. She's reading this book about this TV show called The Pink Opaque. He wants to know more about it. She invites him to her house to watch it with her. And then she just over time, after that one encounter, they don't spend much time together, but she leaves him tapes and he watches the show and becomes almost as obsessed with it as she is. And then one day she just disappears. She's gone. No one can find her. And he's left there by himself and he's going through this very, sad, lonely life, with this TV show and just no one to talk to or be friends with. When she does return, she tells him something that he's not ready to hear, something about the show, that the show might be in some way real. And he's not prepared to hear that. This movie is incredible. The visual language of it is amazing. The use of colors, gendered colors like pink and blue pop up. You've got this thing, this TV show, The Pink Opaque specifically, is just this gendered thing, this gendered color that you can't see through. Like, it's very, like, there are stuff like that that are unsubtle, and then there are more subtle things that happen, just these little tight visual elements that are just incredibly evocative, all the while telling the story about someone who is dealing with the idea of who they might be and who they are, and this kind of dueling realities that many trans people have gone through in trying to figure out their gender and trying to understand who they are. I was watching this movie and it was arriving at the end. I kept saying, "Don't end, don't end, don't end," and then it does, and it's like, wow, fuck, that's amazing. I was floored. I was leveled. I was destroyed by this movie. It is fantastic. Justice Smith is incredible in it, but everybody's great in this. Fred Durst has a couple of great moments in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just Jane Schoenbrun's incredible. I love this movie.
Yeah, I saw it late Sunday night. I thought I was going to be the only person in the theater at one point, and then some dude twice my age walked in and sat way in the back. It was creepy. But I forgot about that because I mean, it was just from the very first scene. You see this kid who doesn't quite know who he is, and then slowly makes that discovery. The mom is, very supportive. The dad is not, at all. And there are times when, like, I knew going into this what the allegory was, based on the internet, and I picked up on that like right away. And also before, like, I did not hear this, but as soon as you saw that book that she was reading about the episode guide, I was immediately taken back to the mid to late 90s with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was just a seminal show for so many people that really touched on LGBT issues before a lot of other shows were doing it, to the point where one of the main characters was a lesbian, and actually her girlfriend was in this movie, playing the mom of the kid that Justice Smith says he's spending Saturday nights with. That's Amber Benson, who played Tara on Buffy. Another thing that when I knew it was a Buffy, kind of, that's where the idea for the Pink Opaque came, was when they show you parts of the show, and it's the beginning of the show, and the two guys are sitting on the curb talking, and the font that tells you who the stars are and the executive producer and everything is the same font of the Buffy.
Yeah, that was good.
I was just like, oh my God. I didn't even have to see another moment of the movie to know that I was going to absolutely love this. And I did. Just the subtle touches, and then the kind of in your face and like hitting you over the head so that you have to willfully ignore what this movie's all about. Just it runs the gamut and does it so well. I didn't know anything about the writer director until after I saw the movie,
Mhm.
but it all kind of makes sense. Um, it just the performances and getting to that point at where she's like, "Come with me. You have to die and be reborn." And that was almost a direct corollary to season 6 of um, Buffy as well, because they switched networks and
Mhm.
Buffy was buried at the end of the previous season. So, it's like it's all this stuff and showing what it means to the director to have watched that in real time and how that affected them and their storytelling was just really, really special.
And there's so many subtle touches to this, and the way they use that show, the pink opaque, the idea behind it, but also like there's a point later on where Justice Smith is watching the show, and it's not the show that he remembers, and
Hmm.
people keep saying that is a criticism of Buffy, like a takedown of Buffy, and no, you're missing the point. His entire life is lying to him. That's the
Yeah,
point. To the point where like even the show that he loved as a kid isn't the show that he remembers simply because he's lying to himself so much and so lost in his loneliness and sadness that and depression that he can't see it anymore.
yeah.
Like that's called subtle filmmaking, guys. It's not an actual commentary on Buffy.
Well, and the
Apparently, though,
whole,
the director's been talking a lot about cishet critics who just don't understand the allegory and are not taking the time to try and understand the allegory. Hence why she felt the need to actually tell people this is a trans allegory. Watch the movie
yeah,
that way.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first scene with um uh I can't remember. Owen, sorry.
Mhm.
Um is him in gym class and they're doing the parachute and he's the only one who goes under it and is immersed in it and is walking around inside of it and the colors are the trans flag. It was like I, for as many people as hate on that on the internet, you would think they would realize what it was.
So very, very true. So very true. I just think James Schoenbrunn is one of the best directors working today. I mean, We're All Going to the World's Fair was an incredible movie, and you add
Mhm.
this to that, it's like she is just absolutely killing it right now.
Yeah,
I think
I remember talking about that and I was just like,
so
couldn't,
good, right?
Just
yeah.
so original.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This one and Challengers for me are my top two of the year so far.
Really, Challengers is that good?
I thought so.
Yeah, Challenger was
Wow.
excellent.
That's my big problem now is just basically if I want to see a movie, I gotta see it with my wife or with one of the kids, and uh, getting them to see something like this is very challenging. Uh, some of the movies you guys have reviewed positively, I'll be like, let's go watch that, and she'll be like, I want to watch something more mindless, something I've never heard of, or some dumbass horror movie, which is kind of what this weekend turned into.
Yeah, Liv, have you gotten the chance to go back and see anything that are now available on streaming? Like, have you seen Late Night with the Devil yet?
I've seen that, and that was a weird experience because I was like so tired, so I was in and out of sleep watching it. And with the way that movie kind of, it was kind of cool to see that way because it was just such a weird, neat movie. I thought, at least. I saw Civil War in the theater. And what else? The one was the horror movie with Sydney Sweeney. I forgot the name of it.
Oh, Immaculate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
but that and Ghostbusters, which doesn't really count. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a straight ahead old nostalgia piece.
Yeah, nothing more.
But no, I mean, I'm craving something. I mean, Civil War was pretty original, I thought, but something like this sounds so outside the box that I'm missing that right now. And that's, I don't know, would be nice to have something like that to this will be a fun episode because we get the shit on stuff, but it's more fun to praise, movies like this. And especially when like the three of us can really get behind a movie. That's always a fun conversation. It bums me out I couldn't see this one, but I'm looking forward to when I finally get the chance.
Yeah, definitely take the chance and see this one. It is incredible. Not incredible is a commercial for Airbnb, or is it Ally app, whichever one it is. It's Strangers Chapter 1, starring Madeline Petch and directed by Rennie Harlan. What the fuck? He used to know how to direct movies years ago. I thought he used to be able to direct movies. This movie sucks so bad. I'm sitting there in the theater just floored by just the lack of momentum, the reliance on just the oldest of old tropes, like, oh, that redneck town where all the rednecks hate the newcomers. Oh no, it's those rednecks. Oh golly gee. Never seen that shit before. Oh God, an entire room of people that just stops talking when those outsiders from the big city come in, like we always do in our small towns. We just stop talking when those newcomers come in. Fuck's sake. What a piece of shit.
But magically they have an Airbnb in their town. The surprise that the killers don't own.
Yeah, so I was pissed because this movie was marketed as a prequel.
Right.
And it's not. It is just a remake of the original, far superior Strangers to be part of a new trilogy. And knowing that the second part is coming out later this year pisses me off because I don't want to have to see that because this movie sucks so fucking bad.
Well, they call it Chapter 1, but the beginning of the movie is another guy getting killed. So clearly something happened before this movie.
Yeah.
Not even. Yeah, they're going to go back to prologue and film that.
Chapter 1 implies to me that we see how how they get together to decide to kill randomly. It implies to me that, when we see the origins of them, we're going to see why they picked this particular place. The original Strangers, the, pre-make, so to speak, it's implied that was their first kill.
Right.
Because, it gets easier next time. So I was expecting, okay, maybe they've, one of the women gets murdered or killed. And I kept all the way up until about the last 5 or 6 minutes of the movie. I didn't realize that this was not a prequel. It's just a simple remake. I mean, every beat.
It's the same exact beats, except for she takes a shower in this one for no reason at all.
Oh, so you can get a jump scare. Right. I mean, when she took a shower in the last one, but they just didn't show it.
True. But it just made more sense in the last one. In this one, it made no sense. And the reason Strangers works is because it's more about, the relationship of, was it Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler? I don't remember his name.
And Liv Tyler, yeah.
But what they're going through is a movie in and of itself. It's, something you're interested in, you're following. And then the fact that they're turning these killers into Michael Myers or Jason or whatever, it doesn't work for this type of movie. The sequel was terrible. Strangers works as a standalone movie and leave it like that.
Yeah. The first time I saw the sequel, I hated it. I like worse than this almost. And then I went back and watched it, and it had some fun images, and that pool kill was great. But I would watch that 100 times before I would watch this again. It was so bad.
But The Strangers wasn't fun. It was just scary. And that's what I loved about it. I don't want to change the tone of the movie. I mean, it was such a great theatrical experience for me. And I really didn't care about the killers as characters, is that I want to hear why they were there or their motivations at all. It's just the fact that there was no motivation behind it made it even creepier. And And it's the Michael Myers stuff kind of ruins the Halloween franchise when you start to put more motivations and storyline to him. When he's just a killer, it's scarier. And
yeah, it's weird. I thought the idea behind this, the creation of this, the idea when I first thought it was a prequel, I thought that's a weird idea because the whole point of the strangers is that you don't know why they're doing this. So why assign them a motivation?
Right.
It seems to defeat the purpose.
Exactly. the bit where they kill their friend in Strangers, which is very effective in that movie, when they do it here, totally pulls you out of the movie. The owner of the Airbnb comes to work on the fridge at like 1 in the morning.
4 in the morning.
And they kill him. But these killers know this house better than anybody. Like it just makes absolutely no sense. It's just lazy. I mean, it scared the crap out of my son, obviously, but he's 13 or 12, whatever he is. And that's all this movie's going to do is scare that age. Otherwise, it's just going to frustrate you, even if you're, like I said, with If, a certain type of person's going to like that movie. This one, I don't even think your casual fan's going to like this because it's just stupid. It's not fun. I hate that it exists. I wish it was just a standalone because I love Strangers so much. I don't want to start hating everything else related to it. And I definitely don't want to hate the killer characters when they continue to keep ruining them.
Yeah.
These killers, like, it's just this movie felt like it was assembled at random. Like, there's a scene where like the baghead guy is like sitting in a chair watching her play piano. Then later he busts through the door with an axe because went back outside, I guess. Like, he just like, was that scene supposed to be before the others? I don't understand. It's such a mess that I just got up and walked out. I couldn't be bothered anymore. After about an hour of this fucking thing, I was just like, I got better things to do. I'm going to Chili's.
And so watching it, I'm like, okay, it's supposed to be a prequel. It looks like a remake. Give it the benefit of the doubt. I kind of liked the actors.
Yeah.
In like in something else.
Yeah, I have no problem with the acting in it. I mean, I guess like again, the intensity would work on a 12 to 13-year-old. It's just the story's so bad. It's so poorly put together as a story that I don't know. I just feel bad for everybody in it.
Yeah, Madeline Petch is not a bad actress. I've never seen Froy Gutierrez before, but he certainly seems to be an actor.
He's decent. Yeah,
he's doing his job. He doesn't look like an amateur doing this.
It's not bad because of them.
Yeah, no. This isn't their fault. This is Rennie Harlan's just not even fucking trying. He's not doing anything innovative or interesting. His setups are rote and predictable. We've seen them in every other horror movie. The scene where her head moves and they're there, but then her head moves again. Oh, he's not there anymore. Oh, never seen that before. Fuck's sake.
The only effective jump scare in the movie is when she's in the dark and she stands up with the flashlight and Dollface is there. Yeah. That's the only effective scare in the entire movie. I jumped a little bit, but after that I was like, okay. But that was that was also one of the only things that was new about it, Everything else was just note for note. It was like Gus Van Sant's Psycho. It just
I will say I was terrified when I saw the ad for the Ally app because I was concerned that the financing rates that they were going to have to pay to transfer that $4,000 was going to be exorbitant. But it turns out that they have no transfer fees when you use the Ally app. So that was lucky. The bullet dodged.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah, right.
They stopped the fucking movie for like a minute to do a fucking Ally ad. And then they do, of course, obviously the Airbnb ad, which is not a great ad for them.
Yeah.
No.
Killers can get going through.
Although with the real life stuff that goes on in Airbnbs nowadays, this is nothing.
That is true. Yeah, they're trying to tone it down.
Why would you want to have an Airbnb? It's like, why would you want people living in your house? They're just going to ruin it.
Oh, see, that's the thing though, is that it's not their house. It's people buy other properties for investment properties, and then they move into that. They move Airbnbs into them, and it kind of ruins the neighborhood. Like whole neighborhoods in bigger cities that are nothing but Airbnbs.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you guys think this would have worked better as like a limited series if they did, like the like busted each of these trilogy of movies into a couple different episodes and then just did like a limited series? Because it looks like it was made for TV. It doesn't look like it was made for the movie theater.
I mean, it's hard for me to answer that because I hate the fact that they're even building on the universe. If you took, if you called it something else and didn't make it related, if you want to make a movie about a killer and you want the killers to be the star, then yeah, you could probably make it work as a series. I just hate that they're using those particular killers because I like them when I hardly saw them and I don't know anything about them.
There's only two movies that I've not been able to watch after I got broken into and I lived in New York City. The Strangers was one of them, and Zodiac was the other. Jeez. And Zodiac is just from childhood trauma from the Zodiac. So this cheapens that.
Am I remembering right? There was a moment in the original Strangers where it's just like they asked why are you doing this, and she just replies, because you were home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's chilling. That's a chilling moment. Even I didn't care for that film, but that's a chilling moment, and you don't need to add anything to that.
And when they do it here, it's like what the
they're
answer
gonna
is.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a remake, not a fucking prequel like it was marketed as. Sorry.
But is it a remake? Because I mean, this is what they do. This is just a pattern that they repeat, right? This is what the Strangers do.
No, this is definitely a remake. I mean, there are beat for beat. This is the same story as the first one. The boyfriend goes back to town for something. She's left alone. Baghead is in there. Not nearly as effective as it was in the Liv Tyler version, where he's just in the background. Nothing is as chilling in this version as that old version. I mean, down to the, it's like there's records and they're playing records, and then they kill the guy who's coming to help, and then why are you doing this? Because you were here. It's definitely a remake, and it's poorly done.
They left out one detail from the original that I do recall, and that was the relationship between Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler had a little bit more depth, because the story was proceeding from a moment where he has asked her to marry him and she has said no, and they're coming back to this cabin having to spend the night together, and he's laid out this kind of romantic thing waiting for them, and that to me again it's a character touch. At least it's something that's telling you there's nothing like that in this movie. These characters tell you what their backstory is, but they really don't exist in any way.
Yeah, no, the setup for the original could be its own romantic drama kind of movie. If you went that direction, but the fact that it takes that and goes another direction with it, just, I don't know, makes it work. It takes its time. It's slow paced. I don't know. I hate that they're trying to make this. I mean, I guess now they have technically made it a franchise, but I hate everything about that.
I mean, it's Rennie Harlin. It's Rennie Harlin's fault. He did this. This is all entirely on him. He is such a shitty, lazy fucking director who doesn't want to do any of the work, and that's how you end up right here.
But was this his idea, or did some studio say, "Hey, let's do this and just grab this guy. He could make a solid movie"?
Well, he's the one who slapped it together.
Well, yeah, slapped it together is a great way to phrase it.
It's like they put the original one in Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best, like.
Take this from 90 minutes to 78, please.
Yeah. I just, and at least the sequel had a little bit of an original, feel to it. Um, or and when I was like, okay, it's a prequel because in the last one, spoiler alert, they get them all, they kill them all. Um, so for me, it's like, where can you go from there? Oh, let's make a prequel. Okay, cool. And then it's a remake, and I'm just so pissed off about it because I thought, okay, well, if they're going to make a prequel, they're going to have to do something, like show us how the pinup and Dollface and Scarecrow or Baghead or whatever he is get together.
There's just
I was
no
under the
way
impression
they could
also.
do that.
I was also under the impression like one of the big draws of this was supposed to be like one of the masked characters was supposed to be unmasked.
Yeah.
Well, did that happen?
No.
Mm-mm.
Maybe that's in the sequel.
One of them.
These were these filmed back to back?
Yeah, they're all done. They've all been filmed. I think they filmed them all at the same time, so they could get everybody. And
Did
but
Rennie
yeah, the
Harlan
other
do
one
all
comes
of
out.
it?
I think so. I'm not sure though. I mean, I can tell you in a second. I don't understand why they did this and didn't think, let's see if the first one is successful before we go ahead and you know fuck everything up.
Just call Tubi, get them to pay you like a $10 and take the rest of them and play them there. Just burn them
Yeah.
off.
Whatever you do, don't put it on Apple TV or no one will ever see it.
You're not wrong. It looks like Rennie Harlan is the director on all three, I think.
So they're all going to be this lazy.
Yeah. I want to take a vote that we don't even review them.
Yeah, don't bring me back for the next one. Unless there's something really good that week and make me watch that instead.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to watch them because I might, but I'm certainly not going to watch them weekend of release so that we can talk about them because this left such a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. For me, it's going to be like I'm going to go into it with a critical, opinion of it existing anyway. That there'll be a lot to overcome. Even like your idea of really going into who the killers are in a prequel, you'd have to come up with a really amazing idea for me to like that. Because it could take away from the movie I really like if it sucks. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably end up seeing it at some point because that's the type of movie my wife will want to watch. But I highly doubt I'm gonna like them.
I'm kind of hoping that my friend who can get stuff early on gets it for me, so I don't have to pay to watch this horrible director. And you know what's funny is I just was talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which he directed, because a bunch of the cast is going to be at this show that I'm doing in October, and I was like, that's one of the best Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and in part because of Rennie Harlan. In big part because of Rennie Harlan and, him taking the chances that he took on that one. And then he comes out with this. That's not even like, I mean, there's like literally 5 minutes of them walking in the woods, yelling each other's names when they're trying to avoid these three killers. Oh yeah. You walked out before that part.
Yeah, I did.
They're literally just walking in the woods, yelling each other's names.
At one point, he's got a gun to one of the girls' head for like what felt like at least a minute.
Yeah, easily.
And he's already killed somebody, so now it's it even makes the comment about the first kill being the hardest.
Guess what? You're my second.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, it just I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing is like, that was a great line. And I was like, oh. And then I thought, okay, this is when he's going to blow her head off. And then that's when we get the blonde girl in the next one. Nope. He holds it up. You're my second. And he just stands there for another beat until like hulking Jason of a baghead guy comes up and gets him. It's like you almost had me. You almost had that goodwill.
It would have been something that I wasn't expecting, and it would have been
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. You did something that, I mean, and really that's the problem is the movie itself. I don't want to call it competent because the story's not, but it's not, it doesn't look bad. It's just
No.
that a ton of bad decisions were made.
Craftsman,
let's be
competent
fair. It's
craftsmanship.
visually boring. It's a visually boring movie.
For
Like maybe competent, I guess, is fair because he is a competent director. He knows how to put something within the frame, but it's a visually boring film.
For a film, your normal like us, but like your regular horror crowd, it's got enough intensity there that I get why people. I mean, why something like Jeff said, if it had taken a weird direction, some of that stuff could have been saved. And it's not an Ari Aster film by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pretty much a standard killer movie. I don't even want to call it a slasher. It's just stupid because we know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. I just hate it so much.
I also thought of another thing that bugged me about it that I didn't realize until later. Sometimes I like to stand outside when I hate a movie. I like to like stand aside as people are coming out so I can hear what they're saying. And I was really like, am I just wrong? And then I was like, I'm not wrong. This movie fucking sucked. So I just left. But then it hit me later is that when the owner comes to fix the fridge, by then there's a big axe hole in the door. How does he not like say hello? Is anybody there? Is everything okay? He's like, just doesn't say anything. He's just getting his keys. And that was like, I thought about that. I'm like, wait a minute. You're the owner of this place. Somebody calls you and you come out and there's a big X wound. Like the door is busted in and you're not going to say hello.
But also,
he deserved to die.
This movie raises way too many stupid questions because it's clear from their encounter at the diner and the fact that somebody sabotaged their car that this whole thing was set up to get them to that place anyway. So why is the owner surprised? Why would the owner be on the hit list to kill? They need his place in order to continue to kill people that go to this place. That's the whole setup, isn't it?
Well, that's the setup, but then none of those people are involved because he literally goes back into town and they're in town. They're not home. Yeah. It's just stupid.
Which made no sense at all.
Right.
No sense at all. Hate it. So glad I walked out. First time since 2008.
Well, why even call to get your refrigerator repaired at 11 at night when you know you're leaving in the morning? I mean, that alone is stupid.
Yeah.
Just drink the fucking beer and go to bed.
Right. Just ignore the person knocking and see what happens. Maybe they'll kill you in your sleep and you don't have to be scared.
What happens if you don't answer the door? They just go away?
Maybe.
They start yelling, Tamara!
That's their whole thing. Like if you stay up past 11, that's what really pisses them off.
Oh God, don't see this movie.
All right, let's move on to our classic this week from 1968, Wait Until Dark, directed by Terrence Young and starring Audrey Hepburn as a blind woman who is dealing with three criminals who have come to her apartment in New York in search of a doll that is seemingly gone missing. The doll happens to be filled with heroin, and these three men want it, or at least one of them really wants it, and he's roped the other two into it. Richard Crenna, one of those guys, and of course the big bad is Alan Arkin. Clever thriller. The idea here is that Audrey Hepburn is blind, and thus these three guys are taking advantage of that fact in a series of ever-intensifying scenes of suspense as to how they will continue to fool her, and how that eventually she may or may not lead them to this doll full of heroin. It's all building up to this big confrontation scene at the end, which features one of the greatest jump scares in movie history, and easily the greatest jump that any actor has made in a movie in history. It is such a bizarre, exciting visual. It reminded me of like there's an episode of Scrubs where there's just this patient running around tackling people. It reminded me just that guy just popping out of fucking nowhere to tackle someone. I This movie is not silly though. It's a very straightforward thriller. It comes from a director, Terrence Young, who worked as a director for 40 years. He started back in 1948 and directed movies up through 1988, and was only ever known for the three James Bond movies he made. He made Doctor No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball, and then he made this. And most of his movies were kind of studio films that just you finish it, you move on, you don't even bother with the post production. Like you don't even care what the studio does with it. Like he just moved from movie to movie to movie, made like 60 movies in 40 years, uh, and not to much distinction, but he made this. And that kind of reminds me of Michael Curtiz, who directed Casablanca, was the same way. He finished Casablanca and didn't even bother to oversee the post production. He was already onto another movie. But Casablanca is an all-time, classic. I don't know if Terrence Young has necessarily a Casablanca on his resume. This isn't that level of good, but this is quite a good movie.
Did you see it, Bob?
No, I wasn't paying attention to the chat. I didn't realize we had a classic until Monday night, and I had to go see If instead.
No worries.
Have you heard of this movie?
Now I have. A day ago, I hadn't.
When I first saw this, I saw it as a filmed play on HBO, and Bess Armstrong, I don't even remember her from the 80s. She was the Audrey Hepburn character, and it was good. And I didn't know it was a movie for years and years and years. And I finally saw it probably about 20 years ago for the first time, and just was like, oh, Alan Arkin is fucking scary. He just has this cool, like, I'm gonna, get away with it kind of thing. And the confrontation at the end when she thinks she's killed him is just, you kind of breathe a sigh of relief. And I didn't really think about there being a jump scare because that was, the jump scares were really popularized 10 years later with Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday the 13th, and it's like, oh, holy shit. He really just launches himself across. It was great.
It's a classic. It's one of those things where you don't think that from the 1968, you don't recall the trope of, oh, the killer's not really dead yet. That hadn't really been a thing. That you think that's a thing from the slashers of the 70s, and it happened here in 1968.
And I remember this as much simpler, as much, more of a, Alan Arkin versus Audrey Hepburn in the dark. I forgot about, the rest of it. And I think maybe that's because I think of the play more often. But there was just so many kind of like machinations that you get into it. I mean, it did get a little silly when Alan Arkin, dresses up like his father and then his son, I'm like, okay, that's a little silly. She's blind. She doesn't, all you got to do is a different voice. You don't have to dress up.
The middle portion of the movie does get a little bit convoluted. You've got Richard Crenna pretending to be an old friend of her husband, who has come to town while the husband is out of town, and is trying to, supposedly trying to help her because there was a body found nearby. The body happens to be that of Lisa, who was the first person to have the doll and delivered the doll to New York and is now dead. Obviously, Alan Arkin has killed her and used her as a way of framing Richard Crenna and his partner into going along with this scheme. But it does get kind of overwrought in terms of those repeated scenes of them trying to fool her. But Audrey Hepburn is so compelling and so interesting that really I didn't mind that so much. She's got so much charisma and so much charm that you can't help but fall for her. You can't help but just sympathize with her, and because she's so sympathetic and so sweet, and you're so worried about her because she's a blind woman being attacked by three criminals. Like,
and it should be said she's newly blind. She has been blind for less than a year, so she's just trying to learn even her own apartment. So that that adds an extra layer to it. The fact that they could be anywhere and she would not know because she doesn't know her own apartment.
Yeah. Her only help is this little girl, Gloria, who causes as many problems as she helps with, which I love that. That's a great little character trait that they give her. She's also really excited to get into the dangerous elements of this story, which is great. She plays a nice role in the ending of the movie. It's really well structured, and it's impressive that how fun it is, especially in that final act.
Oh yeah, definitely. And everybody is like top notch in it, playing their parts. Aside from the silliness in the middle, you really get the sense of menace from Alan Arkin. I keep wanting to say Adam Arkin. I'm sorry if I do, forgive me. But you really do get that sense of menace. And when he figures out after she smashed all the light bulbs that she missed one and she doesn't know it. And he opens the fridge and, it's like, oh shit.
It's very clever in the third act, the way that they continue to amp that up. It's very impressive. I like this movie a lot. I wouldn't necessarily call it an all-time classic, but it is quite a good movie. And did you know Quentin Tarantino made his Broadway debut playing the character that Alan Arkin plays in this movie? He got terrible reviews.
Well, of course he did, because he's not a fighter. And he's not scary. Well, not in the conventional sense anyway.
But there are other notable things about this. The cinematographer for this movie is a Academy Award winner. And my computer, of course, is not allowing me to look at his resume to tell you what the piece of trivia that I found. It's Charles Lang. He won an Academy Award back in 1938 for Best Cinematography and was nominated for an Academy Award 17 times, but not for this film, even though this film is noted as one of the first in a trend of movies shot in, at times in almost complete and total darkness, which low light filmmaking has been a thing for a long time, but this was one of the first and most prominent to use it so, prominently. And he kind of pioneered that in his style. And this is the one he's not nominated for.
I pulled up his IMDb, the top 4 movies he's known for. This is not one of them either. Sabrina, Some Like It Hot, Magnificent Seven, and Charade.
Yeah. Incredibly prolific and like I said, incredibly skilled. 17 Oscar nominations and 1 win.
Yeah, it's about movies now being too dark. There's a way to do it, and this is a way to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that thing about movies being too dark today is so funny when you look back at a movie like this made in 1968 and they're able to like create pioneering techniques to use low light in filmmaking. And nowadays they still like, I wonder how they did that back in 1968. I don't know.
Well, it's like they're doing it now to hide flaws more than anything.
Oh yeah. Because turning the lights out is cheaper than good CGI.
Right.
So yeah, let's wait until dark. Coming up next week, of course, is Furiosa, a Mad Max story, or Mad Max saga. Looking forward to liking the movie and then being accused of hating it. That's
yes.
If you recall, that was a trope early on in the show where I gave a positive review to Fury Road and then was accused of hating the movie because my review wasn't positive enough.
You didn't call it the best action movie of all time, like it was.
I guess I have to watch that, don't I? I haven't seen that.
You've not seen that?
It's amazing.
I bought it, but then I didn't have the digital copy with it. and I didn't have my Blu-ray player was broken at the time, so put it away, and I'm like, I will eventually watch this.
I just
So-
thought it was tons of fun, really cool.
Point all your hatred at Jeff because he's not seen it before. So
Yeah, go ahead and hate
he
me.
never referred to it as the greatest action movie of all time.
Oh, it's almost June. Everybody's gonna hate me anyway. Yeah, I will watch that before I watch this, just so that I know what's going on. I've never been a big Mad Max fan, so I guess I probably have to,
No, you don't.
bone up on that a
Other
little
than
bit.
Fury Road, I've not liked any of the Mad Max movies. And I did like Fury Road. I did.
We tried to watch the Mad Max movies with Fury Road that year, and we all hated them. Like, I don't get I guess it must have been the imagery, but it doesn't hold up like Fury Road does.
Yeah, they kind of sucked, honestly.
Like, yeah, really
Good to know.
boring.
Sorry, Mad Max stands. They kind of suck. Except for Fury Road, which is very good. It's a good movie.
So I'll
keep
watch
saying
that and we'll skip the rest.
Yes.
Okay.
We also have, I'm not sure if I'll see Garfield or not. I don't really get paid to see the kids' movies anymore, so I don't know if I will find the time. Babes, which I'm looking forward to. That one's getting some pretty good notices, so that one's coming out as well. Jeff, what's the classic? Do you have any ideas?
Let's see. Trying to think of. I wish there was a horror movie called Memorial Day, but there's really not. I'll think of something.
I just did get the Criterion Collection of version of Peeping Tom. That incredible film. We could do that as a classic. I'm going to be watching that like 3 times this week.
We can do that.
All right, classics Peeping Tom. Awesome. Bob, are you going to see Fury Road?
Possibly. It all depends on what I got going on this weekend with the kids and shit. I want to.
Or if you do, let us know, and you can come back and join us again.
Absolutely. If I can see it, I'll definitely come back.
Anybody want to do some flick chart?
Yeah, I do.
Bob?
Sure. Do you want me to pull it up, or do you do it right now?
I've got a flick chart open.
Perfect. Let's
see here. How about Pearl Harbor or Bird Box?
The fuck.
Mm.
That's the blind
Sandra Bullock movie.
They both suck.
Whatever you see, it kills you, or
Fishing with Gandhi.
I'm gonna say Bird Box.
All right, Bird Box it is. Let's see. No one's seen that. Uncut Gems or Frequency?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
Obviously, that's a fantastic movie. It's a Netflix original, and Netflix just pulled it off of Netflix. Make that make sense.
Well, is David Zaslav running that too?
Who knows? Maybe. Slums of Beverly Hills or Live and Let Die?
Slums.
Yeah.
Definitely. Fuck James Bond. Oh, did I say that out loud? Let's see. Get some actual movies people seen here. Oh, okay. Don't Look Now or Transformers?
Don't Look Now.
Yep, Don't Look Now.
Such a good movie.
The Ice Harvest or Blue Thunder?
What's The Ice Harvest?
It's John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton.
I don't think I ever saw that.
I think I like that one better if I remember it right.
Yeah, it's a good movie actually. It's not a bad thriller. With that one, Baby's Day Out or Blank Check?
Oh God.
Baby's Day Out. I like to watch babies falling from buildings.
Okay, sure.
Baby's Day Out.
I'm trying to move the podcast on.
The Life of David Gale or The Hunger Games: Mockingjay Part 2?
Mockingjay.
Yeah.
Unquestionably, Life of David Gale. Not just because it's Kevin Spacey. It's just a piece of shit. It was a piece of shit when we liked him.
Yep.
This is true.
Saltburn or Star Trek Nemesis?
Saltburn.
Saltburn.
Saltburn, absolutely. Three Ninjas or Fast X?
Three Ninjas.
Fast X, whatever.
Fast X, of course. Jeez. All right, let's see here. We've got no one never heard of that one. The House, 1986, or The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby?
House.
Yeah.
House it is. La Vie en Rose or Larry Crown?
La Vie en Rose.
Yeah, Marion Cotillard won an Oscar, and
Mm-hmm.
Tom Hanks is boring in that movie.
Yeah.
The Muppets 2011 or the Vacation remake with Ed Helms?
Muppets.
Muppets.
By a lot. That Vacation movie, I should have walked out of that piece of shit. Olympus Has Fallen or Exodus Gods and Kings?
Oh, God.
Yeah, fucking garbage movies.
Which one's shorter?
Olympus Has Fallen.
Oh, I'm going with that one then.
Go with the shorter one. Fair enough. They both sucked so bad. All right. Rumble in the Bronx or P.S. I Love You?
Rumble in the Bronx.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Tommy Boy or Autofocus?
Autofocus.
Yeah, I'm going to say Autofocus.
Yeah, that's the
Tommy
Bob
Boy's-
Crane movie. That was pretty good. Willem Dafoe, super creepy. Super creepy. All right. Hellraiser, Deader, or Crumb?
Anything but that Hellraiser movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crumb's like
God.
a fucking classic. Come on. The
of course,
Apartment,
yeah.
1960, or Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy?
The Apartment.
The Apartment.
Definitely. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or I Am Number 4?
I don't know what I Am Number 4 is.
Oh, that's that Diana Agron from Glee, and it's a science fiction movie. I'll pick that because
I Am Number 4 is what happens when you have two number 2s.
yep.
Okay.
Sonic the Hedgehog it is.
Yes.
Unleashed with Jet Li or 500 Days of Summer?
500 Days of
500
Summer.
Days of Summer.
Yes, indeed. Let's see. 1917. I don't think I've seen that one. Let's see. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium or Drill Bit Taylor?
Did you say you haven't seen 1917?
No, it was a movie from 1917.
Oh, I was like, I distinctly remember talking about that movie. Sorry. What were the movies again?
Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium or Drill Bit Taylor?
Mr. Megorium's.
Sure.
And you guys want to give the win to Dustin Hoffman, so be it. Strangers on a Train or Cat on a Hot Tin Roof?
Ooh. Strangers on a
one.
Train.
Oh, that's.
What do you think, Bob?
I think he's right. I think I might go Strangers on a Train. That's tough, though.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is great, but yeah, I'm going Strangers on a Train as well. Nope. Or movie people have actually seen, Assassins with Sylvester Stallone.
Nope.
Nope. I love Assassins, though. I know it's terrible, but did Rennie Harlan make that movie?
Maybe. It's possible. The Killer, 1989, or Omen 3, The Final Conflict?
The Killer.
I don't
No
think I've
doubt.
seen either one of them.
Yeah. The Omen 3 is fresh in both Jeff and my mind,
Yeah.
fortunately.
God, I had to take an anti-diarrheal after I watched that movie.
The favorite, Yorgos Lanthimos or Frozen 2?
The
The
favorite.
favorite.
Definitely.
And can I just really quick, while we're talking about Yorgos Lanthimos, we were talking about trailers a couple weeks back,
Mm-hmm.
and I started talking to a guy on Twitter who has produced trailers before, and he was talking about why they are the way they are. And when I said that the trailer for Long Legs and the trailer for A Kind of Kindness make me absolutely want to see those movies and don't give a thing away, those are the kind of trailers we need.
Absolutely.
No more of these, the Strangers trailer, which basically gave everything away.
They need to
Yeah,
let the
weird thing.
filmmakers make the trailers and not the marketing people.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Like that Abigail movie. I don't know if you heard us talk about that one, Bob, where the twist of the movie is in the trailer.
Yeah.
That's very funny. One more thing, just on the topic of Yorgos Lanthimos, I saw the weirdest trend on film Twitter where people were seeing Kinds of Kindness at Cannes and talking about this is a return to form for Yorgos Lanthimos, and I'm like, he was just nominated for Best Picture and Director. What do you mean return to form? What are you talking about?
Return to not being nominated. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
It's bizarre to me. Like all of his movies are kind of weird, and all of them are just a touch different types of weird. Was are we looking back at are we already looking back at that movie and going, that wasn't weird enough? Got to get weird. He's back to form. He's weird again. That wasn't weird enough for you?
Poor Things is literally one of the weirdest movies I've seen in the last 10 years.
Right? Exactly. I don't understand what's happening.
That's one I cannot get my wife to let me watch.
Too much naked Emma Stone?
No, not that. It's more just too weird. It's not.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll go on this one, even though there's really nothing. These two movies have nothing in common, other than I think they're both kind of good. Miller's Crossing or Bowfinger?
Miller's Crossing.
Yeah, I do like Bowfinger, but Miller's Crossing is really, really good.
Miller's Crossing, indeed. All right, that's it. That's the show. Thank you, Bob. Please, we missed you. Come home.
I've missed being here. It's nice to be back and doing this. This was a lot of fun. I'll try to make
even
sure.
with the strangers.
Yeah, I mean, It would have been nice to see the TV glowing one. That sounds amazing, but it was kind of fun to be mad. I miss those days.
Well, we're glad you're back.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Fury Road next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.